24. Earlier tonight, I asked Congressmember Adam Schiff if any of those were top of mind for him during these meetings.
Well, I wouldn't describe those as top goals of the committee. Our top goal is to expose how close we came to losing our democracy, what the former president's plot involved to interfere with for the first time in our history with the peaceful transfer of power, and to prescribe remedies to protect our democracy going forward. It'll be the Justice Department's job to decide if laws were broken and who should be prosecuted. But I will consider our work successful if we expose the danger, if we alert the American people to just how close we came to losing our democracy and the fact that we're not out of danger. The big lie that led to that violence on January 6th is still being used around the country to disenfranchise people, to run local elections officials out of town, sometimes with death threats. People need to understand just how fragile our democracy is in order for us to protect it.
Yeah, and we don't know what the future holds yet, but when it comes to what has happened in our past and how people understand it, some recent polling from the group Morning Consult show that the farther we get away from January 6th of 2021, the less likely Americans are to find Donald Trump responsible for what happened. So far, when it comes to these public hearings, Adam Schiff, how well do you feel like what has been said and heard and seen has moved the needle, and what's your strategy for making the most of this time and the public's attention?
I think since the more than a year after January 6th, the president and his enablers, including many of the Republicans in Congress, have continued to push this big lie. And up until now, there hasn't been a comprehensive rebuttal to that because we've been doing our investigation. We've been wanting to wait to gather the evidence and present to the American people. And I think it is a really powerful rebuttal. We have shown just in the first couple of hearings the president's role in this coup attempt. We've shown that he lost the election and that he knew he lost. The people around him told him he lost. His own people were telling him that. And what's more, these bogus claims of massive fraud, his own Attorney General, Bill Barr, said were BS, as did other high-ranking people in the Trump administration. So the president was lying, and he knew he was lying. And I think we've shown this with really quite dramatic testimony and evidence. And there's a lot more where that came from. Anecdotally, and so far it's just anecdotal, I'm hearing from my colleagues and constituents that they're quite shocked at what they're seeing. And it's not just people in the choir. I think independents as well as moderate Republicans are really shocked at what they see of the former president. And I hope that it is alerting people to the danger.
You mentioned his own people, and that's something I really want to ask about because it does seem that part of the strategy seems to be letting those who were closest to Donald Trump tell their version of history. I know not everyone's been able to see these hearings, so let's take a listen to what former Attorney General Bill Barr had to say specifically about Trump's claims.
There was never an indication of interest in what the actual facts were. I was somewhat demoralized because I thought, boy, if he really believes this stuff, he has, lost contact with he's become detached from reality if he really believes this stuff.
Congressman Schiff, let's talk a little bit more about that. You mentioned Republicans, independents maybe having a little bit of a change of heart. How important, how persuasive has been having these former colleagues make points like these?
Well, I think it's very important. It's one thing for me to say it or other Democrats to say it. It's another when people they respect, people that they thought were loyal to the president, and for a long time were loyal to the president. Look, Bill Barr used the Justice Department to protect and defend Donald Trump. He intervened in the sentencing of Roger Stone, someone who lied to cover up for himself and the president. He intervened in the case of Michael Flynn to make the case go away completely, another person who lied to cover up. This was someone who carried a lot of dirty water for Donald Trump, but even he got to the point where he couldn't do it anymore. So, these were Trump loyalists. And tomorrow we will hear from a very well-respected, very conservative jurist, as well as the vice president's counsel, about how this effort that they were making to get the vice president to essentially overturn the will of the voters was unconstitutional. And it's very important that people hear from those kind of witnesses.
It is indeed. You mentioned at the outset that a big part of your goal is preventing future erosion of our democracy. And I happen to think, having watched this, that maybe a part of it is that we don't understand our democracy and how it's functioning in this current era. But I'm seeing changes in that when I watch the testimony, for example, of former Fox political editor Chris Stirewalt, who really broke down how elections and ballot counting works. I don't think the average Joe does get that. We also happen to live in a very fast-paced world where our expectation of quick answers is very high, yet we've also got this long-standing commitment to election integrity, and it seems to me that sometimes that can create a bit of a tension. How can and should we restore America's trust in that system, given these competing factors?
Well, it's a really important question, and this is really part of our mission, which is to explain how the system works, how it's supposed to work, and how the former president really assaulted that system and continues to assault it. People vote for president, and each state has agreed that whoever wins the popular vote in their state will get that state's share of electors. Well, that meant that Donald Trump was going to lose because he lost the popular vote in enough states to lose the presidency. So he didn't like that. So he tried to get the state legislatures to basically overturn the will of the people. It's an astonishing thing. And he had a great many people go along with him. And he did this knowing that he lost. He did this knowing that his claims of fraud were BS, in the words of his own attorney general. And so I think we need to do what we can to explain this in no uncertain terms. So people understand what a radical departure this was from every other president that went before, who accepted that when they lost the election, they were out of office, but not Donald Trump. And that ultimately led to violence on January 6th, people getting killed, and it has continued to plague our democracy.
Congressman Adam Schiff, very grateful for your time this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.